it actually doesn't come from corporate social responsibility. It comes from our much more fundamental core purpose. Panera, since its founding, has been about making a difference in communities. And essentially, for many, many years, that was about local store marketing. It was about local store relationships. That evolved to donations. We're presently giving between ourselves and our franchisees somewhere in the range of $100 million a year in product and cash. And we began to actually feel like there had to be more than just giving cash and donations. And it really struck us, how do we use our skills? And several years ago, I was watching one evening a piece on Nightly News, and in that piece we heard about a cafe out in the West Coast that was opening on this community cafe, pay what you can model. And I remember thinking to myself, heck, we open a cafe every 48 hours. We got 60,000 odd team members. We can do this. This is an appropriate way in which we can use our skills appropriately. Simultaneously, we were having a franchise roundtable, and one of our franchisees was talking about the power of associating the brand with really making a difference in the communities. The gentleman, Paul Saber, was one of our best and most successful franchisees, and we listened to it. And we began to think, you know what? This is the thing we can do. We can open these community cafes and help in this movement. A lot of people thought it was a crazy idea, a national chain essentially saying that there were no set prices and using a donation bin. We said, you know what? This is the right kind of thing to do. It was low risk. Let's give it a try. We opened our first one in May of 2010 in St. Louis, Missouri, in our home market. And again, we're amazed at the response. This was put into a nonprofit foundation, so we were very transparent about it. It wasn't about us making money. It was about really just making a contribution to the community. Mm-hmm. It worked in St. Louis. From there, we took it to Detroit, Michigan. Again, a contribution to the community. After that, we went to Portland, Oregon, and then we finally came down to a market very close to our home of St. Louis here in Chicago. Well, in Chicago, we operate very close to 100 cafes here. It's a great market for us, and it's a market we wanted to say thank you to the community. This is a store of particular relevance to us. The store that we converted was an original store. It was one of the first or second stores we ever did in Chicago. To me personally, it was the cafe in which I sat over a weekend and wrote the basis for the vision that became the way in which Panera has competed for the last 20 years. So lots of personal connection. But as well, it's an eclectic neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that has $1 million townhouses. It also has lots of pain, lots of people on the streets that are in need. And we need both. We need people that can benefit from Panera Cares. We need people that actually have the resources to help us. Yeah, I'm always amazed when people say, what are you doing new and different? But what I really like to say is the truth. Essentially nothing. We've had the same competitive vision for 20 years. It's about giving and making a contribution in the lives of our guests by serving real food, rooted in our artisan bread, antibiotic-free chicken, you name it, doing it right, doing environments that engage people, served by people with self-respect. It's not all that complicated, it's just hard to do. And so that has been our fundamental strategy for 20 years. We were very contrarian. In the boom days, we held back. We harbored our resources. We built our balance sheet. Ended up with lots of cash and no debt. When the recession hit, that seemed to us the time to actually invest even further in the business. And so going into that recession, we expanded the growth rate by about 50%. We also invested in the customer experience. And at a time when almost everybody was ripping costs out of the P&L and talking about how low they could drive their labor percent, we essentially saw that as a tax on the consumer. You walk into a restaurant, it's ripping its labor cost out. What does that mean? That means that there's a longer wait. That means the server is more frazzled. That means there's more tables that have dirty dishes on it. And our view was that was the time to actually invest in the customer experience. We had the credibility. We had the capability. We chose to do that. We saw our comps go up mid-single digits to double digits throughout the recession, and we saw the stock triple. Panera is about building relationships. It's not complicated. You know, for us, the profit is a byproduct. It happens because we're able to actually make and build relationships with our guests. And when they do, they come in, they continue to come in, they come in more frequently, and the business builds.